Today I'm with my friend Aline Karda. We met in 2018 at a Chinese Seeking Roots summer camp in Guangzhou. So Aline, do you mind telling me a little bit about your ethnic background, where you're from, where your parents are from?
My dad is from Niger, so it's right next to Nigeria, like not the same country. I speak French there, so my first language is French. My mom is Chinese and she's from Guangzhou. They met in Shanghai. They met there and they went to school together. Now they both live in Niger. So yeah, I grew up in Niger and right now I'm here in Montreal to study.
When you were younger, did you feel different, or did your classmates or people in your neighborhood make you feel different?
Growing up, I started realizing that people would sometimes make comments, especially when we were studying geography. We would start talking about China. They had to mention my name. They had to make comments, even if they thought it wasn't like a big deal. I have memories of that because I was like, I have to just get used to that. People were sometimes giving me nicknames, even though I don't look fully Asian. They would give me nicknames like Made in China or Mao, just like for fun, or Pyongyang, or they would call me La Chinoise, like in French, the Chinese. I mean, I was the only one, even if I'm just half, I was the only Chinese girl at my school, although a friend of mine that was half Vietnamese and half from Niger. But I don't know why they wouldn't make that many jokes about her. I don't know if it's because I learned how to speak Mandarin, my mom has a Chinese restaurant, all of that combined together. Most of them would see me as the Chinese girl. I mean, weekends or even when I would invite people to my place, they would be like, oh, can you order spring rolls because your mom has a Chinese restaurant? It was always like that. So it wouldn't bother me necessarily, but you have to know you're different. You have to know you're that kid, like you're the Chinese kid among everyone. But that's in Niger.
You mentioned that your friend who's like half Vietnamese didn't get teased as much for being Vietnamese or Asian.
And that's very interesting, but I think it's mainly because, first of all, her dad, he grew up in Niger. So he doesn't speak Vietnamese. Even her, she didn't know how to speak Vietnamese. Even though people would say we look alike, she didn't get teased that much.
Have you talked about it with your brother? How growing up, did you guys both get teased? Was it only you?
My brother did too. But I think when people saw him in France, I don't think he looked that Asian. Like his Asian trait, not that pronounced. Like I feel like people, when they see us, even though they always tell us, oh, you guys look like twins, they can see that I have more Asian features. At first sight, people can always tell me, oh, you look half Asian, or you look like from Madagascar or South Asia. Usually they don't tell him, oh, you look Asian.
Back in the day, I feel like being mixed race, it had more negative reputation because of why people were mixed. Maybe because it was like military presence in their country, and maybe their mom was like in the sex industry, or because of slavery and slave masters raping their slaves. But I feel like nowadays, when you see a mixed person, that's not the assumption that you have. It seems almost like glamorous, like, oh wow, like you are so interesting and you're so unique. Do you get a lot of that?
Yeah, I get a lot of that, especially here in Canada. That's one of the main reasons why I like being here, because here in Canada, especially in Montreal, when you're different, you're even more interesting to people. But in France, because I was supposed to go to France to study, like all my friends, in France, it's like when you're different, like you have to change, you have to become like everyone. They don't accept difference as much as they do here. People here, when they look at you, they're immediately interested to know you, like they wanna know your story. And also what's crazy, it's like, especially in Montreal, people are usually bilingual, trilingual. It's easy for them to speak multiple languages. When they see my background, they're just like, wow, that's so interesting. Why do you speak French with a French accent too? But in France, it would be like, they wouldn't care. They would just like want you to speak French like them. I like how people here can be open-minded. When I go to Chinese restaurants and they look at me and they can never guess or even imagine that I'm half Chinese, because I go there with my Chinese friends. They would give me a fork and give chopsticks to everyone. Every single time it's asked them in Chinese, like in Mandarin, can I have chopsticks too? Every single time I'm like, and they have to always ask the same question. How come you can speak Mandarin? Oh, your Mandarin is so good.
In 2018, when we were at this camp, we also decided like we should go out. So we found this hip hop club to go out to. We were a big group, maybe like 20 of us. We went in like separate different cars. So Aline and I believe were in the same car, one of the first cars to arrive there. And we got there, we're waiting in line. And basically the guy tells us that we can't go in. We're like, why not? And then we find out it's because Aline is Black. We're arguing with this man saying like, no, she is Chinese. Like she can speak Chinese. She's actually from the city, Guangzhou. Like that's where her grandma is and that's where her mom's from. And she even like can speak Cantonese, which is the local dialect there. And they were still like, no, no.
This is what I remember. So he was talking to you in Cantonese, trying to like make you understand, thinking that I couldn't understand what he was saying. He was telling you in Cantonese that it was because I was Black that I couldn't get in. And it was like, I can't understand what you're saying. So talk to me, because I remember you were looking at me like, I don't understand Cantonese. Like, I don't even know how I got the words, but like it just came out. I even told him that he thought you could speak Cantonese, but I'm the one who can speak. And he was like, he was shook. He was speechless. And he was still trying to talk to you. That's what I remember. He wasn't even looking in my eyes when I was talking to him.
What kind of made the situation more frustrating is that we saw a Black man, an African man, go into the establishment. And we were like, okay, so why can't she go in and he can? And he basically told us, oh, well, he works here. So we're just like, what? So you are allowing him into your establishment so he can make you more money and because he works for you, but someone who wants to come and enjoy and pay you money can't get in? At that point, all of our friends had come, and so we were trying to update them on the situation. We're not being allowed inside. Some of them were just confused because a lot of us were fully Asian. There was some like half Asian, but they were like half European, half white. Like half European, half white. Asians have a different reception in Asia. Finally, he lets us in because we convinced him with all this many people, like they're gonna make a lot of money.
At some point, we went out there. The same bouncer, that's when he gave me free drink. And I talked to him, I was like, look, he even gave me free drink, like what the fuck? And then after that, he was talking to me, trying to apologize. He was like, oh no, you don't understand. It's because usually Black people here, they bring drugs, and the police, immigration police, like they don't allow anything like that. And we would get into a lot of troubles. And I told him, do I look like I can bring drugs here? Like seriously? And he was like, no, you don't understand. It's not my fault. It's like in the club rules. Yeah, when we were about to leave, he came with like iced tea.
We went back to the same place. It was her who got invited to a table with like a Chinese guy. I like went along with her, and then they like try to take a picture of you. I think I remember you telling me like, I think he's trying to take a photo of me. And I was just like, what? And then I think we like confront him about it.
I remember us talking to him being like, why are you doing this? You know, you could just ask.
I feel like maybe in the last like 20, 40 years, China has really like opened up and allowed foreigners to come in. When I studied abroad there in 2016, they were offering a lot of scholarships, like full ride scholarships to all these like international students from all around the world. So I think like now is the time where China has to deal with a lot of racial issues because there's so many people who want to live in China, who want to work in China, who want to visit China. And you know, there's a lot of biracial couples who are having biracial kids. It's really a big question of like, what makes someone Chinese? Just because they look it? Just because they were born there? What do you think?
I think that as soon as you can speak properly, they kind of see you differently. Now, especially in the 21st century, like they really accept things. They're not as close-minded that they were before. When they see that you can actually speak properly with a good accent, just like if you grew up there, they see you, they more accept you. Even when we went together in Guangzhou in 2018, because I've been going to Guangzhou since I was very young, I felt like people actually evolved. Like they were more open-minded and they would understand or know more. Just a simple thing, my hair. Like people knew that my hair were were naturally curly. I remember when I was younger, I would go to like salon and they wouldn't know how to brush my hair, how to cut them. But now it's like, oh, we can see that you actually have thin hair. Like they know what they're talking about. And I was surprised. I was like, oh, things have changed now. Even when we went to buy a phone, the woman who was selling the phone told us, oh, my sister went to Kenya in Africa to do business and she married a guy from there and her kid looked like you, because she wasn't surprised to see us talking to her in Mandarin. And when I was younger, everywhere I went, like people would start talking like, oh, look, that's a black girl. Oh, look, she's black. I would hear it even like in the elevators, in malls, or next to me in like fast foods, everywhere. Or with my brother, you know, like, oh, they're black kids. When we would walk with my mom, they wouldn't even guess that we were her kids. But now it's more like, oh, did you come here to model? Do you study here? Like that's the type of things that they say. It's not anymore. It's not, oh, she's black anymore. I mean, except when we were like going to the club, but I mean in daytime, like when people like interact with me, that's how they do it. Because of what I experienced when I was younger, in my head it was always like, oh, Asian, especially in China, they will never be interested in like a black looking woman. But now it's completely changed. They're like, oh, can I get your WeChat? Someone actually followed me because we were living in the same building. When I went back to China, I was with my mom and he thought she was just the host family. So he followed me in the elevator. He went out the elevator on my floor just to because he kept asking my contact, and my mom was right next to me and she saw all of that. She was just like, okay, you know what, just give him your phone number because you're not gonna even stay here. So I gave him my phone number and he immediately texted me. In my head, I couldn't process it, because for me growing up, Chinese people would always see me as, oh, she's just she's black, she doesn't belong really here. But sometimes I would get mad, like I would just like reply even though I shouldn't. I would be like, but I'm half Chinese too, you know? And they would be like, oh. Now people are like more aware that non-fully Asian people can also speak Mandarin. So they don't always talk in my back now. Like I rarely heard bad comments the last time I went in China. I went to play ball with people in my neighborhood. They were very welcoming. They were not like, oh, she's black, she can't touch the ball. Oh, no, she can't play with me. Not at all. They were like, oh, hi, are you a student here? Like, what are you doing here? You know, like, yes, of course you can play. You're next. Like, don't worry.
That's good to hear, though, over time, at least in your lifetime, that you've noticed a change in how people are treating mixed race, half black Asians. How do you view yourself? Because you were saying in Niger growing up, people are always like, oh, you're the Chinese girl. And then in China, people are like, oh, you're the black girl. I guess in Montreal, people are more accepting that you're mixed race. But in terms of how you see yourself, what do you think?
In Niger, I just accept the fact that I'm Chinese. When I'm in China, it's just like I flip a switch in my head. It's like, okay, now you know that people are gonna see you as a Chinese girl. It's just like automatic. Just like when you speak two different languages, it's like you don't even think twice about when you have talked to someone in that language or not. Because I grew up in Africa, I see myself like an African. But at the same time, you know, I speak French. Like I was in a French school. I have that like very strong French culture. So this is why everything is kind of mixed, because I don't even speak languages from my country. There are like many dialects. I don't even speak one of them. And that's why people tell me all the time, but you're not African. Like, how can you not speak any of your dialects, but you can speak Mandarin? The thing is, in Niger, we speak French. So I was in the only French school there. It's like, I also see myself partially as French person who grew up in Africa. You know what I mean? I feel like I belong to like African people.
Would you say like, being in Montreal has helped you be proud of being mixed?
Yeah, definitely. The word blasian comes out every time. Oh, you're blasian. And I'm just like, now I guess because I met a lot of French people now here, they would say it with the French accent, oh, t'es blasian, t'es blasian. I also remember when I was going to France when I was younger, every single summer, people would just look at me like, oh, you're not like from here. They would never ask me, oh, what's your background? They would never be interested in that. They would never tell me, oh, you're black and Chinese. Oh, that's great. No. It would just be like, are you not not from here. In Africa, I only had one Chinese friend that was there 1 year. His parents were there for work and he was only Chinese. I was so happy. I think I even had a huge crush on him. I felt that we were close just because we shared the same background. I felt like I wasn't alone anymore. I felt like I could actually speak Mandarin to someone else than my mom. Because even my brother doesn't like speaking in Mandarin. For him, it's like, why are you talking to me in Mandarin if we're home? No, we only use it in case we don't want anyone else to understand. Through middle school and high school, I've always wanted to have Chinese friends. And I was dreaming about when I would graduate and go in other countries and I would have other Chinese people talk to in Mandarin. And I was like, being mixed was actually great in other countries where you can meet people from all over the world. And yeah, that's exactly what happened here. I went through the Miguel English program for like 3 months and I met so many Chinese people. I even learned how to make dumplings and baozi. It was like, oh my god, I'm living my dream. I would go out with my black friend, my African friend, and I would go to school with my Chinese friend. My black friends would already start their program in other schools, and these Chinese people, I would only know them for like 3 months. I actually brought 2 Asian friends with me with my African friend in club, and it was very dope.
A cultural exchange almost.
And I was like the one in the middle, you know? Very cool to like be in both worlds. It's fantastic. I love Montreal. Like, I love the city. For someone biracial, for someone who likes discovering new cultures, for someone who likes discovering or speaking different languages, Montreal is the city. I remember you asking me if there were maybe like other people like me in Niger. Besides my friend that was half Vietnamese, there were actually 2 other families that were half Chinese, half from Niger. My mom, who's Chinese, was hanging out with the 2 other Chinese women that married men from Niger. It kind of felt like we had to stay strong together too because of that. My mom was always like trying to support them. They were trying to support my mom. But like what's crazy is that I feel like just because we didn't go to the same school, if you would ask her how she identified herself, maybe they would tell you that they feel like they're very close to the Nigerian culture because they can actually speak Hausa. Hausa is one of our dialects. I know that 2 other kids from the other family can maybe speak 2 languages. They didn't go to a French school. We live in the same country. We have like biracial background, but we wouldn't necessarily tell you the same thing.
Well, thank you, Aline. Right now with coronavirus, you know, Asians are being targeted for racism. And of course, Black Lives Matter, racial discrimination around being Black. And so it's important to have this conversation. And I think your perspective is unique, being someone who is both Asian and Black.
This coronavirus actually showed how people could be that racist towards Asians, but at the same time, Asians themselves racist towards Africans. It's life.